Well, good evening and welcome to the March 28th, 2022 meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District Board of Directors. This is a virtual meeting and all speakers, the board and staff. Welcome to the March 28th. Please announce your name when you begin to speak. This meeting is being live streamed and the slide on the screen shows the information on how to join our webinar via Zoom. You can also call into the meeting at 253-215-8782 and the webinar access code is 824-7126-6203. If you are participating by phone, please press *9 to indicate a desire to comment. If you are joining us online through the Zoom, please push the raise hand button. Be sure to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak and voluntarily state your name for the record. And with that, Tabitha, would you please call the roll?
Okay, Director Budge. Director Harris.
Here.
Director Howell.
Here.
Director Hume is marked absent. Director Jennings.
Here.
Director Kennedy.
Here.
And Director Natoli.
Director Natoli's here.
Director Chenier.
Here.
Director Cerna.
Here.
Director Valenzuela.
Here.
And I'm going to look for Director Budge one more time. Okay, and Chair Miller.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 9 votes. And this meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air on Friday, April 1st at 6 p.m. and Sunday, April 3rd at 9 a.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net and is closed captioned. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14.
All right, can you please call the roll? Oh, we did that. I'm sorry. We're down to Pledge of Allegiance. If you join me, please. Lost my place. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's hear our first item, please.
Okay, the first item is the consent calendar, items 2.1 to 2.7.
Any questions or items wish to be pulled by the directors?
Chair, can we pull 2.6 just for a separate vote, not for discussion?
Okay.
Thank you.
And any other items or questions? If not, Tabitha, do we have public comment on any of the items?
So we don't have any written public comment, and it does look like we have a couple hands up.
Okay, let's see which items they'd like to speak towards.
Okay, first we have Rick Hodgkins.
Rich, which item are you addressing?
I thought I was looking at the the agenda did not look at, I thought the agenda looked at, I'm sorry, the agenda just said items 2.1. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it talked about the release of space. My question is, if I'm not mistaken, sorry, my video's not on because my bandwidth is low. So if you can't see me, that's why. But I think it's about the RT leasing of space. Does RT own that space, or is RT renting that? 2.4? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Natoli. Thanks. I knew it was something. Anyway, does RT own that space or is RT renting that space? Because, you know, we talk a great deal and we talk a good game about wanting to provide more service. And I don't know if the short range transit plan is on the agenda tonight. I don't know if that's going to be a public hearing tonight, but if it is, we talk a good deal and a great game about, you know, wanting to provide more service into the future. But if we keep leasing and or even renting space, we're going to have less money to do the things that we want to do to provide transit and improve service if we continue to lease and or rent space from outside parties. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have other comments, Tabitha?
We do. We have Glenn Mandelkorn.
Yes, this is Glenn Mandelkern. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So my section, I am addressing a concern, an observation regarding the visual art proposal that is 2.2. Okay, so first of all, it's important for me to say that I'm very happy with the art that I see. I'm specifically going to talk about on the exterior of light rail vehicles and buses. So like I said, I'm very happy to see it. I like when it's bright and cheery, especially on rainy days like today. However, that same image that I enjoy outside the bus or light rail, when I'm inside the vehicle, it interferes with my ability to see outside. I've seen this happens to other passengers, by the way. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that sometimes when I'm on a bus specifically, and I want to look for an address, I can't see too well the building numbers, especially for an area that I'm not familiar with. So I wanted to suggest if this is the right place, if not, maybe some other place where this type of issue comes up. I would like to suggest some language that says that the visual art should not interfere with the passenger's ability to see outside. I don't know if that's a question of the materials being used, the size of the holes that are in this material, or the spacing of the holes. And it'll be important to look at that while also maintaining the quality of the image. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Director Cerna here. Question for our general manager. I think the speaker brings up a valid point, and I know to what he is referring in terms of the full wraps, and the fact that those wraps have they're rather, I guess, porous, for lack of a better phrase, and so it does screen out much of the light that does enter our train cars. I'm just wondering, and perhaps we're already doing this, but is it possible that there could be some intention when coupling our train sets at the beginning of our service duty for light rail, such that we know that every train set at least has one car that is not wrapped, and therefore those that need to have visual access to the exterior from within the vehicles have that option.
Director Sola and Glenn, we actually received this type of similar feedback multiple times. Lots of visitors, they would like to stay outside of the window. We internally we discussed how we can do something to improve on this in the future. Certainly, if we're going to do the new arts, and we would like to say either like you suggest, Director Sarah, to leave one car in that train to be able to log wrap, or make sure some reps try to minimize the cover of the windows as much as possible. And we will take that into our serious consideration in the future when we do this type of artwork.
I appreciate that. It seems to me, knowing what little I know about the science and art of wrapping trains, that we offer these full wraps. I want to say we used to call them, maybe we still do call them gorilla wraps or something, but they're the full wrap of the train. I don't want to certainly get in the to be put in a place where we minimize the ability to present artwork throughout the full scale of the exterior of our trains. And that's why I suggested perhaps, there could be some effort to, attempt to have that one train in each multiple train set that doesn't have the wrap. It seems to me that would be the easiest option to pursue.
Thank you. We will definitely try.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Director Cerna. Any other public comment, Tabitha?
Yes, Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yes, in regards to several of these things, may I ask RT to consider using the other Zoom device, which has not got, shall we say, the chat disabled and the raise hand, which is what was used when you did the outreach effort for the standard, the short-term plan training. If we're to use that, it would allow better to direct the comments and things rather than me going through this process of being sure you see our raised hand to try and make a comment and effort, and trying to go through the multiple agendas to see which one has the elements and open parts. The two elements that I am going to direct my questions to on the consent agenda is because I could not find an answer to the Second Amendment on the office space for 1550 S Street. I believe I understand its purpose, but still it goes back to, as I have stated before, about the multiple projects you have out there and what you're doing, and little explanation of being offered for them and about them. But I just make, again, that suggestion because I was going to raise before this meeting and raise my hand. We're wanting to get the clerk's attention because there's no other way with the chat disabled to ask Henry if dealing with the situation that occurred last week with the writer that at the zoo got left around so that he could have a better on his general manager's report, and also in elements of his general manager's report that he could have on his site the predetermined information loaded up on his computer before the meeting started. That's unavailable to and it's something that has to be by 12 noon or 2 o'clock. Any of those concerns that be directed to the clerk of session in regards to those matters. I'm just suggesting that you consider, since you have the tool and you use the tool, that you use it in a better manner than what you are doing right now. And because you're also going to need to hold public hearings, i.e. the next meeting, and you're going to have budget hearings, is use the other Zoom format, which has a question and answer and a chat ability on it than the current format that you are utilizing right now, that allows where this type of dialogue taking several minutes to disclose, talk about, respond to. I've had this problems with other meetings as well, but that's my public comment right now about dealing with the consent items and simply the Zoom format that is currently being utilized right now, that you need to understand and use the one that allows public speaking, hearing, and a direct question answer procedure that can be submitted for the purpose of public hearings, which right now you have not utilized this last year to do that. And I will stop.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, Steve, my hand's up.
Go ahead, Linda.
So I'm sorry it took me 10 minutes to get into here. I don't know what was going on. My computer wasn't cooperating. But when I tuned in, Phil was talking about wrapping trains, and I'm wondering if somebody pulled 2.2 for discussion and amendment.
It wasn't pulled. We can if you'd like to.
Well, let me tell you, I read it. I'm extremely thrilled to see it. The only question I had was that as we have extended light rail from Butterfield all the way out to Folsom, each station has had an art in public places component. And I didn't actually see art in public places mentioned in the visual art policy. If I missed it, I'm sorry, but it seems to me that we should be continuing with the art in public places program. I'm not sure whether it exists anymore as 1% or 2% of the project expenditure, but it's a good idea. It's given a lot of different places a variety to put art for in a huge variety of media. And I personally would like to see it added into this policy if it does not now exist.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
can we actually take this item back and incorporate the feedback from directors and public, and bring that back later sometime?
Okay.
So that's first. Secondly, I just want to respond to a question both Rick and Jeff raised about the item 2.4 about the needs of the office space at 1515 S Street. We need this space for the transit ambassadors and the supervisors for multiple years in the past. And we have this space for a strong presence at the 16th Street Library Station, which is an important transfer point for our system. And it's really easy, convenient for our ambassadors to hop on and off from the library trains, and to dispatch them to different locations. This price actually was very cheap. We got a great deal from the owner, the landlord. So just wanted to share with this, and in case there's some miscommunication. Certainly in the future, if we have more our own office spaces and the facilities, we will try to say what is the best way to house our transit ambassadors. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Henry. And with that, I'd entertain a motion.
So Steve, I should probably make a motion to continue 2.2 to the next
Excuse me.
RT meeting.
Mr.
Go
Chair, I
ahead,
have my hand up.
Director Cerna.
Yeah. So I agree with Henry. I think putting 2.2 off makes sense to refine it a bit more. And I heard him say that he was interested in hearing from directors now and probably until the time it comes back about how best to do that. One of the places where I think we can improve would be under section 9, memorials. As currently written, the intent is clear that it's focused on deceased individuals that had some, obvious strong connection to SAC-RT and transit, which I totally get and don't. There's, I have no opposition to, but I think it's a little too narrow. I would, for instance, say that we ought to have the ability if some artist wanted to, for instance, commemorate the passing of a fallen peace officer, that had really no administrative connection to RT. That's just one example of subject matter that might be technically prohibited by the language that's currently in there. So, that's just one example of where I think there can be some refinement. I'd be happy to give some of my time to work with appropriate staff to continue to hone this a bit, as perhaps others on the board may also suggest. So I think Director Budge is probably likely to move that we put off 2.2, and I'd second that.
Okay,
So do you want the next RT meeting, Henry?
Yes, we can, we can even delay further, in the next meeting or, once we get this, in a much better status.
I just need to continue it to either the next meeting or to a date certain or a date uncertain, whatever.
Yes.
just pull it for now.
Okay, then I'll move we pull 2.2.
Second.
Chair, does that include pulling 2.6 for a separate vote?
So on Mr. Chair, so 2.2, you're just dropping it then for now and come back when they're ready in another few
Yeah,
weeks?
dropping it for now, come back when they're ready.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know Director Valenzuela was asking about 2.6, but on 2.2, we're just, motions to drop it then for now, right?
Yes.
Sounds like it.
And
Okay, got it. Thanks, then. Okay.
so this just applies to 2.2. Please call the roll.
Okay, Chair Miller, there was one other public comment, David Schwagel.
On 2.2?
On the consent calendar, I'm not sure which item.
Okay. Let's take his comment, please.
Okay,
We can get to voting.
Am I unmuted? Is this David? Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes, David, go ahead.
Okay, so this is David Schwagel. And first off, I want to give a huge shout out to your general manager, Henry Lee, who has, in a matter of a few short years, transitioned SAC RT from the worst performing transit agency in the nation to by far the most efficient transit agency in the nation. And I hear that we're gaining all kinds of national attention for our efficient use of public funds. And it's definitely a model for other regional transit agencies to follow. And Barry Broom at last Friday's Greater Sacramento Economic Council meeting put in a great word for Sacramento RT. In the short term, I want to encourage us to replace the rolling stock, the light rail cars, as quickly as possible with the latest Siemens model, because those Siemens cars are manufactured right here in Sacramento, and there's no need for us to have to travel all the way up to Seattle to see the latest and greatest state-of-the-art light rail vehicles. Second, if the Seattle region, only 3 counties, King, Pierce, and Snohomish County, can pass a $54 billion measure, imagine what we can do here in the Sacramento region, in the 6-county SACOG region, consisting of Sacramento, Placer, El Dorado, Yolo, Sutter, and Yuba. With $54 billion, we could very easily get 110 mile per hour electrified commuter rail out to the outlying cities. For example, Roseville, Rockland, Auburn, and Colfax on the Placer County line. On the El Dorado County line, of course, Folsom, but this would be more by the Palladio district where the station would be, and El Dorado Hills as well as Placerville. Additionally, south to Elk Grove and Galt, and then over to Davis, Fairfield, Vacaville, and Woodland. And of course, expedited service up to the airport, as well as Yuba City and Marysville. And that would unite our SACOG region like never before. And that would be a model for plenty of other agencies to follow. I see that the San Diego region is considering 110 mile per hour electrified commuter rail. The main item that we need to address is the fact that Sacramento is the rock bottom priority on the high-speed rail project. But if you do the benefit to cost analysis, I have a really hard time believing that San Jose scores higher than Sacramento, because you have to do all this tunneling, go through Pacheco Pass, And meanwhile, Sacramento is a flat and open shot up from Fresno. And so we really need to do everything we can. We're on a great start with the Sacramento Rail Yards being identified as the nation's largest urban infill project. So keep up the great work and let's think big. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Again, we're on item 2.2, not item 6 for public comment. Please keep
Mr.
your
Chair, can I just,
to the item.
Mr. Chair, can I just?
Go ahead, Henry.
One comment. David, thank you so much for your kind words. I just want you and the public to know we signed a contract with Siemens for 72 light rail vehicles. So far, in the last 2 or 3 years, we secured enough money to buy more than half of the 72 light rail vehicles. 72 light rail vehicles will equivalent to 97 existing older vehicles in terms of capacity. So we made a huge stride in terms of to replace our vehicles in the near future. We are very confident in the next 3 or 4 years, we will be able to secure enough funds to replace all of our light rail vehicles. And in terms of your funding proposal, this is by far the most exciting proposal we have received. Thank you so much for your vision. I want to reach out to you the first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Thank you. Now back to item 2.2. Would you please call the roll, Tabitha?
Okay, just for item 2.2,
Yes.
Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Oh my.
Director Howell,
Aye.
Aye.
Director Hume is absent, Director Jennings,
Yes.
Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Chenier,
Aye.
Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Aye. Now we need a motion for the balance of the consent calendar, less item 2.6 for separate vote.
I'll move it, Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Harris. Who is the second?
Budge.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Budge. Please call the roll.
Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Howell,
Yes.
Director Hume is marked absent, Director Jennings,
Yes.
Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Chenier,
Aye.
Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes. And now motion for item 2.6, please.
Do you want me to read the item?
You can if you like.
Okay. Item 2.6, Resolution 2022-03-031, delegating authority to the general manager / CEO to negotiate and execute the agreement with the County of Sacramento for Sheriff Deputy Services.
I move the item, Mr. Chair, unless you have any public comment.
Second.
Motion by Natoli, second by Director Budge. Please call the roll.
Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Sorry, aye.
Director Howell,
Yes.
Director Hume is marked absent, Director Jennings,
Yes.
Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Chenier,
Aye.
Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela?
No,
No?
that's correct.
Okay. And Chair Miller?
Aye.
Okay, motion pass, or resolution passes with 9 votes.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
The next item is number 4.1, resolution voting to support AB 2015 Cooley, an act to amend the Sacramento Regional Transit District's Enabling Act. And Shelley Valentin and Olga Sanchez Ochoa are here to present this item.
Thank you, Tabitha. Good evening, Chair Miller, directors, and everyone. This is Shelley Valentin. The purpose of this presentation is to provide the board with an overview of AB 2015 in the hopes of receiving unanimous support to move forward with this legislation. At the request of SACRT staff, and many thanks to Chair Miller, Assemblymember Ken Cooley introduced AB 2015 in February. As currently drafted, this legislative measure will make clarifying amendments or cleanup language to several outdated provisions of SACRT's Enabling Act. Since the changes are intended to improve the agency's operating practices, SACRT's General Manager, CEO, has authority to propose them based upon a 1997 board resolution delegating such. To meet the deadline for submitting bill proposals, SACRT staff submitted the cleanup language first, but with the intention of amending it later to add the proposed changes to the board's composition as soon as the board votes on them. However, as Chair Miller reported at the last meeting, because the support for the board composition changes was not unanimous, Assemblymember Cooley advised SACRT staff that he will not include in this legislation the changes pertaining to the board composition. Staff will therefore pursue board composition changes at a later time if the board still wishes to do so. While the Assembly member understands that SACRT's General Manager has authority to propose the cleanup part of the bill, he requested that SACRT staff seek from the board unanimous support for the bill as currently drafted before moving it forward through the legislature. And now I will hand it over to Olga Sanchez Ochoa, SACRT's General Counsel, who will go over the proposed cleanup changes to SACRT's enabling legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Good evening, Chair Miller, directors, colleagues, and members of the public. AB 2015 affects 5 sections of SACRT's Enabling Act that are either obsolete, contain ambiguities, or that require modification to improve business processes at SACRT. The first change is a clarifying modification to Section 102.100.3 of the Enabling Act. Section 102.100.2 states that the Board of Directors will consist of 7 board members, 4 appointed by the City of Sacramento, 3 appointed by the county. However, 102.100.3 says that, quote, each member entity shall be entitled to make 1 appointment to the board. Thus, the 2 provisions appear to be in conflict. AB 2015 clarifies the inconsistency by modifying the language to reflect our current board composition and reads each member entity that is annexed after the initial formation of the district as set out in Section 102.100.2 shall be entitled to make 1 appointment to the board. The second change is that it repeals Section 102.100.8, which is now obsolete because Elk Grove has annexed into SACRT. Next slide, please. The third change pertains to Section 102.105.2C, which contains language that is inconsistent with other provisions of California law because it states that any action taken by the board may be approved by a simple majority of the board. AB 2015 will modify that section to read, all official acts of the board shall require the affirmative vote of a majority of the board members unless a higher threshold is required by law, thus bringing our Enabling Act into alignment with other requirements of California law. The fourth change is in Section 102.222, which allows informal solicitations for the purchase of supplies, equipment, and materials up to $100,000 in value. AB 2015 will increase the formal solicitation threshold to $125,000, and this amount is based on an increase in the Consumer Price Index since the cap was last increased by the legislature. Next slide, please. Finally, AB 2015 will add language to Section 102.430, which authorizes SACRT to have its own pension system and which requires the system to be governed by bilateral boards. Since the inception of bilateral boards in 2005, SACRT employees and members of the SACRT governing board have served on our retirement boards. However, Section 1099 of the Government Code prohibits individuals from holding incompatible offices. To ensure that we do not have an incompatible office issue, we need language in the Enabling Act that authorizes board members and employees to sit on the retirement boards. And AB 2015 would authorize that. Next slide, please. So those are the changes that we are proposing to the Enabling Act, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Olga and Shelley. Any questions from directors?
Chair, I'd be happy to move support of 2015.
I'll second.
There's a motion from Director Harris, a second from
Howell.
Director Howell. Any public comment, Tabitha?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Jeffrey, on this item.
Yes, as having spent the last week testifying in front of various committees, I am puzzled a little bit, and so wanting to ask a, should we say, point of information. Unless the bill was submitted, you cannot refer to it as AB, 2015, because the bill was not submitted unless you're gutting and amending, and it has been previously submitted. To clarify,
that's exactly what's happened, Jeffrey.
Okay, because the way you're referring it to it is it would be a dead bill if anyone looks at the legislation efforts at it. So it's going to be admitted next year. Then is what you're telling me, and I just wanting to clarify.
I'm not telling you that. The bill has already been submitted.
Okay, I'll check with Ken Cooley to and see what's in the records.
Thank you. Yeah, the language is already submitted. And so we have, I think, till today to amend the language. And with that, we've had a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
We have one more public comment, Rick Hodgkins.
Okay, on this item.
Yes. Miss Sanchez Ochoa mentioned that Rick Hodgkins, by the way, Miss Sanchez Ochoa mentioned that Elk Grove was annexed into the district. I would also like to note and report that 2 different other cities were also annexed. One of them, which is in Assemblymember Cooley's district, that being Citrus Heights. And let's also give a shout out to the city of Folsom, as they also annexed into the district. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Budge.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Aye.
Director Howell.
Yes.
Director Hume is absent. Director Jennings.
Yes.
Yes.
Director Kennedy.
Aye.
Director Natoli.
Aye.
Director Chenier.
Aye.
Director Cerna.
Aye.
Director Valenzuela.
Yes.
And Chair Miller.
Aye.
The item passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank you, if I could, just thank you for your efforts and your outreach. Certainly the district, I know that you had district staff, but I appreciate your reaching out to get a sponsor for the bill. So thank you, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to get something in front of our legislature on behalf of regional transit. And with that, we can move on to the next item, please.
The next item is item number 6, public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
Do we have any comments?
Glenn, and there are a couple hands up. Glenn Mandelkorn.
Go ahead, Glenn.
All right. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, thanks. So my comment today is about a subject that we have talked about here, the subject of free rides. And apparently our small signal here at the board meetings have reverberated all the way to the state capitol. You probably have heard that Governor Newsom is thinking about having 3 months worth of free rides throughout the state at various public transit agencies. And so I'm excited by the concept because my general interacting with riders, hesitant riders, they've thought, well, if it's free for a while, I'd be willing to use it. I also happen to note that we're approaching end of March, which is when a lot of people abandon their New Year's resolutions. However, I've also heard that one way to become effective instead is to adopt new habits, and those become more ingrained when you adopt them for about 3 weeks. So therefore, what I'd like to suggest to SAC-RT is to see how to go about implementing this, so that people can start to use the
How can you go
transit
about?
system that they've been hesitant. And when it comes to free, however, I'm also wary of the message of there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. So if you're going to do this, I always want you to be financially prudent. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. And next comment, please.
Okay, Jeffrey Tartagia.
Well, I hope I can unmute. Is this correct?
We can hear you.
You can hear us. Okay, thank you. I appreciate and thank you of what I see, the one about policy. I have been encouraging Henry and RT that you need to have some checklists and policies in effect, and would like to suggest for the dealing with the visual policy that you perhaps should be bringing that back to the MAC meeting for some input from they're both blind and other mobility issues related to the visual impact of what's going on. A number of things took place last week that I'm hoping Henry will, in his general manager's report, address, dealing with something else that needs both a checklist and a policy being developed. I would also encourage from both the last MAC meeting, board members, you should look at and see what's transpiring and going on. And I believe the next MAC meeting will be addressing something more about dealing with what Henry mentioned at the last meeting, about dealing with the grants that we had for some CNG buses. Do note, I will say also to you that we have had now the bus cancellations, I perceive on Friday, have been dropping very well. And I appreciate what I see in the newsletter and on the website. I will encourage again that the bus cancellations be more in red and visually oriented to make people aware of exactly what that translates and means. Your operators are doing an excellent job of assisting, shall we say, our riders that are getting stuck at times when you do not have a, shall we say, a bus being actually transferred and going on. It has been canceled for this route and this time period. Lastly, I will also comment about that beyond what went on with the disabled rider that got left at the zoo, that again, that hopefully a policy will be developed back with the MAC assisting in that. There was a previous policy that said that you determined and made sure that anyone would get a ride home in one manner or means. And you may have been attempting that with some of the van usage through there, and do want to do a shout out to understanding about what the Citizens Academy will do, and the fact that there's various issues that really need to be effort. And in ECHO, yes, we need more transportation dollars, and we need to figure out how we get more support for what is needed and necessary for transit. And I would do a shout out to Jessica for, as your public, shall we, space of thinking ahead about some of the things to alerting about what's going on. And I hope that by next meeting, you may have addressed and come back to the board about when you're canceling all these commuters, exactly what are the number of commuters that are, in a sense, being lost with those routes being eliminated.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Your time's up. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have Rick Hodgkins.
Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. Earlier this month, that when Henry did his, earlier this month, that when Henry did his transit talk, I asked a question but it never got answered. And my question was, who are the names of the companies that SAC-RT contracts with for supplemental services for SAC-RT Go? I asked that question for two reasons. One, because that when we contracted paratransit services out with Paratransit Inc., it was either taxi cabs, numerous and various different taxi companies, or it was Silver Lining. And the second reason why I asked that question, and I cannot stress this enough, if we keep contracting, leasing, and sourcing out, we're never going to have enough money to spend our money what we really need to spend it on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Any other speakers?
Thank you again, Rick.
I don't see any other hands up.
All right, let's move on to the next item, please.
Now we can move on.
The next item is item 8.1, the general manager's report.
Good evening, Chair Mina, members of the board and the public. Thank you for joining us this evening.
It's just this evening.
Let me begin by sharing some photos from our employee appreciation event last week. We hosted food trucks and hand out commemorative tokens of appreciation to staff at several locations last Wednesday, lasted about a whole day. We also had representatives from Nationwide, our record keeper for our deferred compensation retirement plans, on site to provide counseling and advice. Overall, it was very inspirational to see our employees safely come out, get together and enjoy the time to celebrate our tremendous achievements and hard work. And it was an opportunity to take a couple of employee group photos to mark this historical time in SAC-RT's history. You may say, Congresswoman and I hand, a picture, which we took 25 years ago. Certainly, we are honored to have Congresswoman Matsui and Chair Mina join us as well. We have planned for this event to be quarterly to share our appreciation. And I know that the feedback we have received from staff has been very positive and appreciative. They want to have this type of event every week or every month. And we know every week is not possible, but we might do every 2 months. SAC-RT wants to share with the public that we provide a supportive, collaborative, inclusive, and equitable, fun working environment to encourage others to join our award-winning team and also to inspire our staff and our partners to join SAC-RT's journey to excellence. We know happy employees drive positive working culture and can help keep and attract talents during the toughest of times, especially as we navigate through a national workforce challenge. As we have been highlighting and updating the board, SAC-RT is currently dealing with a driver shortage. We have been actively recruiting drivers and holding in-person hiring events, even offering 2,000 signing on bonus for drivers, and streamlined to the best possible level possible in our hiring process. Last week, we hosted another in-person hiring event. in the first couple minutes, we had 30 people, come to our event, just the first couple minutes. We hosted this event in the faculty auditorium and had great attendance. We're again hosting another event this Wednesday, March 30th from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. in the faculty auditorium. More information is available at faculty.com/hiring events. While the nation faces similar staffing challenges, it is causing a strain on our transit services. We're seeing an increased demand in paratransit service as people are feeling more comfortable to travel out in the community more. We have 14 new operators, paratransit operators in training right now, and with 3 expected to start next week. Additionally, to ensure the best service possible for our customers, Rick just asked that question, actually board approved in last board meeting. Rick probably did not read our board meeting agenda. Board approved. Faculty will partner with a private company called Adaptive Transportation Network Company called USERV. They will provide additional up to 25% of the service and the support for faculty Go customers starting Tuesday, April 19th. Help is on the way, Rick. Also, just let you know, the service will be relatively cheaper than what the cost faculty provides in our hourly base. So we're not actually going to spend more money. We're going to spend less money with limited funding. So we're trying to be the best public fund steward to achieve the maximum value with the limited funding. And unfortunately, as some of you might have seen in the news, faculty riders, pickup time was delayed far too long last week, like Jeffrey mentioned. We had 2 faculty Go paratransit operators suddenly left work during a peak shift due to major medical emergencies, which is really unfortunate. Please know that we are actively working to prevent any situations like this in the future, and I want to apologize to the service delay. The customers will not pick up, in a timely manner. In the meantime, we're trying to further streamline our dispatching function to ensure this type of delays will be addressed quickly, especially when we get more, drivers, on board. Good news is these 2 employees are out of the medical emergency and will come back to work this Wednesday. And we are so happy to see our employees come back from the medical emergency. Next, I do want to highlight that Faculty's Successful Transit Academy is back. The 2022 Transit Academy will be held on Wednesdays from May 4th through June 1st, every Wednesday, each week. The Transit Academy is a free 5-class course designed to educate, engage, collect our residents, business and community leaders and other stakeholders about our planning process and how public transit shapes our communities. Classes are held once a week. We're currently taking applications through Monday, April 18th. We have had about 60 individuals going through the first 2 academies before the pandemic, and they have become tremendous advocates for us in the community. Glenn is one of our graduates. I hope you can help us spread the word. Then next, as I shared a couple of months ago, Sac County was going to receive Women in Transportation Sacramento Chapter Innovative Transportation Solution Award. The award honors innovative transportation project or service that improves the quality of life for its users and the community. Over the last few years, Sac County has forged strong partnerships in the community. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, we continued to innovatively pivot to serve the public in new ways. Last Thursday, the WTS Sacramento chapter presented Sac County with our award for creating an in-house social service practitioner position and program to collect individuals living along Sac County's right-of-way or facilities with regional social services. I believe we are either the only one or among very few transit agencies in the nation to implement this program and very effectively execute the program. We're very appreciative of this recognition from WTS and are looking at ways to help assist the homeless crisis in this region. In addition, I would like to highlight a collaboration Sac County is participating in to help celebrate Mother Earth. On Friday, April 22nd, we are offering system-wide free rides on all Sac County service, buses, light rail, smart ride shuttles, and Sac County Go paratransit service shuttles during regular service hours. That is April 22nd. No free ride flyer is necessary. You can just hop on and go. To learn more, visit saccounty.com/Earth Day. In the meantime, it looks like governor will provide money to all transit agencies, up to 200 transit agencies across the state, to provide a free service for 3 months in this period, in the period of up to the roof gas price crisis. Actually, about 2 months ago, we already applied for fund, the LC top fund from state to allow us to offer free rides in the month of October this year. So we are a little bit ahead of the governor's initiative, but we're so happy governor takes this large leap to support public transit, to fight climate change, to create more equity and improve our economic growth. To conclude my remarks, I would like to share a wonderful operator commendation I received. This letter is on the screen, but let me read just a little bit from it. I would like to commend your operator on the bus line 30s. I bought at J and 53 Street and asked the driver about connections to the 142 airport bus. As we approached L and 13s, my operator noticed the 142 airport bus was just pulling out. To my great surprise, he caught the departing bus and arranged for it to hold at the next stop for me. That was so unexpected and so thoughtful. I hope you can identify the operator by the time and the route information. This is truly a lovely letter, and we always appreciate feedback, and we have been sure to provide the operator, Anthony Fisher, with the commendation and a copy of your letter. And we want our customers, our citizens in this region know that we put customer service at our bottom of our heart, and we always want to make sure the needs of our customers in our daily, everyday decision-making process, the best, excellent customer service is the cornerstone of our business. That concludes my remarks. Thanks. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Henry. And it's always nice to receive a letter like that. Thank you to the two operators. And with that, I noticed also there's a Capital Corridor JPA meeting summary. We had a special meeting on March 23rd. It was closed session. I left before the end, so I don't know if there was reportable action, but it is a lawsuit, so I'm going to remain silent on it. I believe Director Harris would have the same report. I'll let you know as soon as it becomes public. And with that, is there any other items, Henry, for your report?
Actually, Miss Barbara Staten raised her hand, and nobody, caught her. I don't know if we can get a chance to ask her to speak. Barbara, are you still there?
Yeah, let's go ahead if we can get her on.
Barbara, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Barbara.
Okay.
I'm sorry I missed your hand.
End up on 6, but no one. I just want to reiterate about what Jeffrey said about the drop trips. The drop trips are a problem. And we've had a number of meetings with staff to try to figure out a solution for that. Recently, a person went down to the Florin Road to catch a number 81 to go somewhere. The 81 was no longer running. He decided that, well, I'll take the Smart Ride because the Smart Ride is down by Florin Road. And when he asked if, requested a Smart Ride, they told him they were busy and they were too busy to pick him up and try again later. So he went back home to the north area and missed his event. So drop trips do affect people, and we will be coming here probably every meeting to remind you just how much they do affect people. And that's all I wanted to say. And we also gave out the Top Banana Award for 2022, and it went to a youth. His name is Glenn Jackson Jr. He's been getting up and talking about transit since he is 10 years old, and he is now 14. So the 2022 award went to him, well-deserved. We hardly have any youth that we see that's up and coming to advocate for transit. He's also part of the Youth Academy for SACOG. He's been recognized like that. So we're really happy that we were able to give him the Top Banana Award for 2020. We have 2 more to go until the end of the year, and hopefully people will, nominate other people, and that's it. But the trips is really a problem, Henry, and I don't know what the solution will be. People can't get where they want to go when they want to go there. And I've had numerous calls from people, especially in Old North Sacramento and Del Paso Heights, saying their buses, got dropped and they weren't able to go where they wanted to go. So we'd like to impress upon you to try to find a solution for that.
And we're trying, internally, we discussed how we can, further, improve our process. In the meantime, we need more money to hire more operators. So please help us too.
Thank you, Barbara. And with that, let's move on to the next item, please.
Okay, Chair Miller, Jeffrey Tartagia also has his hand up.
Okay, we're done with that item, but go ahead. Jeffrey, I'll give you a minute.
Well, as my comment was, I presume most of you board members are aware of what happened with Channel 13, I believe it was ABC broadcast last week, where an individual got left at the Sacramento Zoo. I just bring that's been something that's been discussed at the MAC related to missed rides and delayed rides. There is a new policy that needs to be put in place there about how you address that need so somebody does not get lost in the system. The other thing I will really encourage is we expand on 142 and make it more an on-demand service starting from the community theater location where it should be starting out. And also remarking that as of April, when you change the revise the schedules again, well, we see that the 88 and the 86 get revised. It does not start at 9th and K. It has been now recently starting at 11th and J Street, I believe. That's.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, now next item, please.
Okay, next item is number 9, reports, ideas, and questions from directors, if any.
And I'm not seeing any hands. Are you?
I am not seeing any hands, and I want to apologize to Barbara Stanton. I saw her hand go up, but then I saw it go down, so I didn't go.
Okay. Well, we got her in. That's what's important.
Yes.
Okay, well, then I will move to the next item and adjourn this meeting. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.